Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for sticking around and partaking in a much overdue update on our Newfoundland properties. My name is Timothy Froud. I'm President, CEO, and a geologist, and very proud to be here to speak on behalf of our Newfoundland gold and lithium properties potential. I'll only get to speak really about two of our key assets today. 10 minutes isn't a lot of time, so I'm just going to get right to it. Forward-looking statements. I may say something that would be construed as being remotely optimistic, heaven forbid. The numbers page, of course, our biggest fan and shareholder continues to be Mr. Eric Sprott, 26.3%. Current treasury is sitting at about 7.5 million, and we've fully diluted about 274 million shares. I'm going to speak mostly today about our Moosehead, our flagship property, as well as our lithium discovery with joint venture partner Benton down in southern Newfoundland. Project highlights: Moosehead, infrastructure. I can't say enough about this project in terms of its infrastructure. The Trans Canada Highway cuts through this property. I mean, you couldn't ask for better access. There's a hydroelectric generated power substation 4 kilometers from the property. The area's been logged off. There's access to every corner of the property, so every dollar that we spend are more geared towards drilling and assaying as opposed to getting to the property, which I think is very important. We're situated on the same geological trend as the now probably 5 million ounce Valentine Lake project, which Marathon Gold are currently building. Property was discovered initially by prospector Calvin Keats, working for Noranda, who found high-grade boulders up to 400 grams per ton, but it took a long time for those boulders to be sourced, as we'll find out. Structurally, geologically, mineralogically, the mineralization compares very favorably to the high-grade Fosterville-type gold deposit in Australia. The same type of geological setting, basically sediments that have been tightly folded, shot through with high-grade quartz veins. Visible gold has been intersected in drilling over a 2-kilometer strike length on this property, and we still only have probably 25% of the property explored in detail. Since 2018, when we acquired the property, we've found 4 new zones of mineralization, all of which remain open. Quickly on the structure. Structure is everything with gold deposits. This black line here basically is the trace of what, it has several names, but for lack of a better term, we'll call it the Valentine Lake Shear Zone. It's host to all of Newfoundland's significant gold deposits, and I mean deposits that have 1 million ounces or more on them. We sit up in the northeast end of it here, just over the hill from our exploration partner there, Newfound Gold. You may have heard of them. Quickly on the geology again, I don't have a lot of time, but essentially a sedimentary basin that has been tightly folded and shot through with a lot of northeast trending faults. Again, the system is very young. It's Silurian Devonian in age. A lot of people are more familiar with, Archean systems and things like that, but gold does occur in the Paleozoic. I mentioned the infrastructure. Here's the Trans Canada Highway here, cutting through the northern part of the property. A secondary paved highway heading to the south coast trends through here. All of this area has been logged. And again, just for representation here, here's the trace of the Valentine Lake Shear Zone. So we would be on a splay off of that. And it's often always the case, as in the detour in areas of Quebec and Ontario, the Abitibi. The main fault is probably not the one you want to be on. You want to be on those secondary faults. And that's exactly where Moosehead sits. So it all started in late 2018 with our very first hole, which ended up being a rather good one. 12 meters of 45 grams, and of course the phone started to ring, and that's when I first met Mr. Eric Sprott, who continues to be with us to this day. Typical of all of the zones, just to show that hole 1 wasn't a fluke, every zone we've drilled through in this project has high-grade gold. So this is a uniquely inherent fact and attribute of this system, is that high grade is everywhere here. And we just need to find enough of it, obviously, to make the whole thing come together. I won't read off all those numbers, but every zone has at least one of these high-grade intersections in it. This is pretty typical of the zone, basically white quartz with a modest amount of disseminated sulfides, mostly belangerite, as well as minor sphalerite. Those two metals, when we get those two metals in these veins, the gold grades go through the roof. So quickly, just looking at a cross-section through the main trends, And I'll focus a little more attention on hole 463 down here. But everything basically has a rather steep to moderate easterly plunge. Everything comes to surface. And hole 463 we announced just before Christmas time. Again, one of our better holes, 10 meters of 42 grams. This is a section through it where you can see some very nice, thick, several meters thick, high-grade veins grading up to 90 grams. So hole 505, which was the first attempt to test this zone on its own right, is currently almost all assayed now. I was really hoping to have those assays here today for you folks, but unfortunately no. We're probably going to be a week late, but anyway, we're getting them, and they'll be out as quickly as we can get them compiled. But this is pretty typical of the high-grade zone at Moosehead. Again, hole 463 was drilled this direction here. What we now interpreted the zone to be is basically a folded splay. And this is very good because these are areas where you can get thickening of zones. And obviously a 40-meter intersection is above average thickness for this zone. So the first hole just nicked the top. So 505 came through here, just nicked the top of the zone. There's another planned hole, supposedly hoping to hit the target here. We will use directional drilling if we have to, but those holes are in progress. And again, assays on hole 505, hopefully in a week or less. So 20,000 meters left in current program, targeting near surface high grade down to 300 meters vertically. And basically we're just going to drill until the cows come home, basically. So moving on to our lithium discovery, which we made with Benton in 2021. No one knew lithium existed in Newfoundland until then. And since then, we've managed to hobble together enough drilling and prospecting to basically define a zone that's over 2 kilometers in length. First of all, a little big picture. There should be lithium in Newfoundland if you look at the global picture. And these structures, are what we're looking at here basically is the Appalachian mountain chain from Newfoundland down to the Carolinas. There are economic deposits of lithium in North Carolina at almost exactly the same stratigraphic structural setting as they are in Newfoundland. So the big picture is good. Golden Hope was originally staked for its gold potential, hence the name Golden Hope. And as you can see, the dots in the circles here represent basically gold and till and other medium that basically sit along strike from known gold deposits. The former Hope Brook mine here produced about 1 million ounces in the 80s. So we staked for gold. So we went prospecting. Well, we did find some gold, but we also found, perhaps more importantly, a series of these things, which basically is a pegmatite dike, highly enriched in spodumene. Those long white crystals you see there are spodumene crystals. Surface samples up to 1.5%, 2.5%, sorry, up to 1.5% in drilling. So basically all the work is focused only on a 2-kilometer stretch. We have 60 kilometers of this feature staked. So really, we've only done detail work. And what you see here, these lines are lines of soil samples. And rock samples in red and purple in circles are greater than 1%, up to 2.5%. So we stepped out. We have some drill intersections, 8.5 meters at just under 1%, 20-meter wide dike here at about 0.6 with higher grade sections in it. And we stepped out doing half-kilometer spaced soil lines. We haven't even been over here yet, and we know the tenor of these values are similar to these here. So we expect to find more dikes here. Infrastructure, again, very important. The lithium showing sits 12 kilometers west of a paved highway, 30 kilometers north of the world's biggest highway, the Atlantic Ocean, and a hydroelectric substation sits just 12 kilometers to the east of us. A very large property. We've got a lot of work to do. We've only explored probably 5% of it. There's no royalties on this. We own the project 100%. Again, we're waiting for a bunch of assays, same old story, and expect to be able to put out news on additional diamond drilling at the lithium discovery within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And in part with that, we have a new cesium discovery. We're learning a lot about this stuff as we go, obviously. And yeah, some very, very impressive grades in cesium. But primarily the property will be a focus for lithium. So $3 to $5 million, lots of drilling. We have permits in hand, camp and drills in place, and we're ready to go in probably 60 to 90 days on that project. So thank you very much.